Hello and welcome. You're watching QTV and you're watching the Week in Review. I'm Arid Army, and here to go through the stories with me, somebody who hasn't been on the show for quite a while. Mr. Choi, welcome back and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Durame. It's a pleasure to be back and to join our viewers on this program.
Great to have you again. And for anybody who's watching this program for the first time, it's a very simple program. It's called the Week in Review, and what we do is we review 10 big stories from the week, and a word of warning right at the beginning: some stories will take more of our time than others. So if we start delving into a story, don't panic and think, why are they spending so much time? It's meant to be that way, okay? So the presidential Meet the People tour has just ended, and we'll have a couple of stories linked to that tour at the ending of that tour. And also the World Bank regional director has been visiting the Gambia and has been inspecting some of the World Bank funded electricity projects, very big projects that have a lot to do with our energy. Also, there's been an unusual occurrence, an all-male conference talking about positive masculinity. We don't get many of those. Also, just to change the subject completely, football, the cost of funding our AFCON campaign, which kicks off in Cote d'Ivoire next year. So these and lots more to come on the program. Now, first up, Meet the People tour has just ended and it wrapped up in Banjul. And just as well, we've got Mr. Choi here because he was there to take in the action. Have a look and have a listen.
During the tour, you've called on Gambians on both sides of the political divide to join you in the best interest of national development. Do you consider inviting the opposition, sitting down with them face to face on a national dialogue for the development of this country?
I am very serious about this call. I think I am more than willing to sit down with the opposition and discuss about the development of this country, because I believe that this country belongs to all of us. Whether you are opposition or you are ruling party, basically the most important thing is we are all Gambians. And if we are Gambians, we are all working towards the development of this country. So I think as a head of state, it should be my responsibility, and it should be part of my principles to listen to all Gambians.
And there we heard the question being asked by somebody who looks a lot like my guest today, Mr. Choi. You were there, you asked the question, of course. The President responded. If I could ask, what prompted you to ask that question, really?
Thank you very much. We've seen, out of my observation and the observation of some analysts, the deeply polarized nature of politics in the Gambia here, and the need for national unity, given the country being a developing country, and the need for every Gambian to come together in the spirit of national unity for the best interest of national development. And during the tour, quite impressive remarks, some remarks from people, speakers, who came out and then called for unity, called for everyone to come together.
And some of them were people from opposition parties.
Yes, some of them, from opposition parties, including, other speakers. But also consistently coming from the head of state, calling on every Gambian, saying, look, irrespective of our political differences, irrespective of which political party you belong, I'm calling on every Gambian for us to come together and develop this country. So I took that opportunity. As a journalist, I believe we must not be, asking questions to, raise tensions between the opposition and government. But it is our role to promote national unity, peace, and dialogue.
And as you said, based on what you'd seen, yes.
Based on what I saw, and that was why, I raised that question. And quite a good response also from the president, hopefully.
Well, I mean, it was good, and I'm glad you responded in that way, because you're right. As journalists, we have a duty, and part of that duty is to sort of prod that question because nobody else had asked it. And yet, as he went around, he'd made the point time and time again about development, etc., etc. But also the point about unity. He made a very good point. If there's electricity failure in my area, it's not just going to affect UDP or APRC. It affects everybody. And so for those things, if there are good roads, if there are good bridges, if there are good hospitals, schools, and so on, those things do not discriminate. And so really, if we're serious, it's a small country, we all know each other, we must come together. Yes,
this reminds me of a remark from a member of the breakaway group of Noto Alliance, a National Assembly member, in Fonyi, when he said, whether we like it or not, he's our president. And we must all come together for the development of this country, whether we like it or not. And the president coming out and saying, I was voted into office, although there were some who did not vote for me, but I'm a president for everyone. And when I implement development projects, I do not consider, the constituencies or consider my political stronghold, in this country in order to distribute development across the country. What I consider is the fact that Gambians voted for me, and I'm your servant, and whatever I do must be guided by your own interest and your desire for the development of this country, which is why he called on everyone to come together for the development of the country.
Thank you for that, Mr. Choi. And as Mr. Choi says there, this was a message that the president hammered everywhere he went. So let's hope people are listening.
Hopefully it goes beyond, it goes beyond.
I was going to say, let's hope
it
it happens. Exactly.
Yes, expressed commitment. Hopefully, some politicians will take it off from there, seize the opportunity.
And say he's made the call, let's respond to it. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that, Mr. Choi. And now that tour that we're talking about wrapped up in Banjul, and it was a grand sort of homecoming, one could call it. Let's have a look at what happened there.
Makes his last address to Gambians in his last dialogue with the people in the 2023 Meet the People tour. The development he has made in Banjul is unprecedented and that he is committed to bringing more. The head of state clarifies that the Banjul Rehabilitation Project has 3 phases and that it is now at its finishing stage. President Barrow also promises to develop the Banjul jetty with a cold storage and provide the youth with fishing boats. The head of state also reports that as part of the Women's Enterprise Fund, his government had provided credit facility of up to $5.6 million for 2,250 women beneficiaries from 55 women's groups in Banjul.
There again, Troy, we heard your voice. And also, as somebody who works in communications, as the tour went around, I thought maybe they should have given it a theme, like the Unity and Development Tour. Because everywhere he went, he didn't just talk in broad strokes. He mentioned stuff that was specific to whichever venue he was at. So he was in Banjul, he talked about the Banjul project, he talked about development of the ports and so on. And is that what you found as you went around on the tour?
Of course. And there was a point we were talking with the president, and he admitted that, well, these are the developments that are happening in the country. We were visiting a project site, quite remarkable, development projects happening. But he admitted that unfortunately, we the government were not good at communication. Yeah, well,
I was going to come to that, which is why I mentioned about communications. I would have called it Unity and Development Tour, but yes, carry on. Yes.
And, for us, it was more of a journey of discovery, as I mentioned, in one of my stories. And of course, that was what happened. When we sit in our houses, when we sit in our offices, we do not see much of what is happening. Because for many of us, we rely on what we see on the media, and what is shared on the media by people who also have their own interests, agenda. These are the things that we see. But it was, to be quite frank, there are developments happening across
Was
the
it
country.
an eye-opener for you, really? Yeah.
It was.
Right.
It
okay.
was. And you know, for those who have been watching my stories, you know, I have dedicated so much focus on development projects
Sure.
that government, you know, has implemented
Sure.
or are being implemented in
Sure.
the country. Because the story must not be only stories of negativity, story of, you know, as journalists, when we see development, we report it.
Yes.
When we see shortcomings of the government, we also report it, hoping that government will pick it up from there to,
respond,
you know, to
yeah.
serve as learning point in order to improve.
Sure.
But Mr. Darame, in every part of the country we visited, we saw some massive infrastructure developments happening, being implemented by the government, and people are in high anticipation for the completion of those projects,
Sure.
some of which have also been completed
Sure.
and having again, you know, have been a game changer,
Hey, that's
as
my
the
word.
president likes.
That's my word.
Your word or the words of the president.
but no, I mean, all jokes aside,
Yeah.
one of the things that was an eye-opener for me was that there are many communities that were having certain services and infrastructure for the first time. And for them, yeah, let's use the word, it was a game changer, really. And so, as you said, as you went around, you're thinking, well, why has this not been trumpeted more, really? Yeah.
We saw hospitals being constructed. We saw hundreds of kilometers of roads being constructed. We also saw, you know, a water project that gears towards, you know, providing access to water for 400,000 Gambians.
Yeah, sure.
You know, which is quite massive. But in every part of the country you go, especially at rural Gambia, they share common problems.
Sure, sure.
You know, there's still need for more development.
Sure.
People are, you know, the poverty level of people in the rural part of the country is so deep.
Yeah.
But government is taking some efforts. Farmers also have been, you know, supported, providing them with free, you know, seeds.
Yeah.
Thousands of tons, you know, tens of thousands, if not up to hundreds of thousands of tons, government, you know, have provided to farmers for free. You know, fertilizer also have been subsidized.
Sure.
Government is spending heavily,
Yeah.
you know, nearly $500 million
Sure.
government, you know, has invested in fertilizer subsidy. And there are also some farm machineries that the government is trying to introduce to farmers, although not at a, you know, massive scale. But the promise is that more is in the pipeline to come when it comes to development,
Sure.
to scale it up
Yeah.
to the level that it will be sustainable and it will help address our development challenges as a country.
Yeah, thank you for that. And although changing the theme slightly, this next story is also about development in the sense that one of the problems that we struggle with, and we have to be honest about this, is the generation of electricity. This is not unique to the Gambia. You go across most of West Africa, we're struggling to generate you know, electricity. You go to what is always described as the most advanced economy in the whole of Africa, South Africa. They've had horrendous problems with generating electricity. But recently, the World Bank director, regional director, was in the Gambia to look at some of the projects that his bank are funding. Have a look and have a listen.
The visit was to assess firsthand the progress of work at these major project sites that, once completed, are expected to significantly improve NAWEC's energy supply and access to electricity across the country, especially within the Greater Banjul area. Led by senior officials of the World Bank Country Office and NAWEC, the visiting World Bank Regional Director, Franz Dries Gross, first visited the Jabang substation, which is near completion. He was taken on a tour of the facility and briefed by engineers on the progress. He then proceeded to the World Bank-sponsored $27 million solar power plant in Jambur. The foundation stone for this gigantic environment-friendly energy project was laid by the President in February this year. Here, the contractors informed the visiting World Bank director that work is expected to complete by the end of the year and that the facility will be fully functional by February 2024. He then proceeded to the OMVG power station in Brikama, where he also toured the facility and engaged engineers working at the project site.
Engage engineers at the site, and he expressed satisfaction, exactly the kind of thing we're talking about. these are things that could be really life-changing for many people, and really another aspect of it. World Bank has given the funding. They haven't just sat back and say, okay, Gary, they come every now and then and they check.
Yes, for sure, World Bank has been a major development partner for the country, particularly also on the energy sector.
For sure.
We've seen,
for sure.
you know, the Jambur solar power plant, which I've been informed is also, you know, a pilot project that TBA, that, you know, Chinese company,
That's right,
you know, has been contracted to do. For the first time, we're having such a massive, you know, infrastructure in the energy sector when it comes to solar energy. Other areas, you know, have also been, you know, boosted up, as we have heard from the, you know, from the report. There is huge energy deficit in the country,
For sure.
but there are some projects that are being implemented, and hopefully when they are completed, it will significantly boost our energy supply and also address the energy demand the country, you know, increasing energy demand the country is facing.
And also one of the things that I've been sort of pushing, which when we talk about energy and electricity, we tend to talk more about the domestic use of it in my house, your house, and so on. But if we're serious about one day sort of broadening into a kind of manufacturing and a processing center where we process the foods that we grow rather than send them abroad, we need electricity, and so it's unavoidable. We just have to step up.
Sure. Even, you know, even during the, you know, the tour, you know, we had the president highlighting, you know, his national development plan.
Right.
Part of it is also to promote industrialization in the country, because we're relying so much on, you know, imported goods.
Yeah, of all sorts.
You know,
We even import peanut butter.
peanut butter, can you even imagine? So
Yeah,
the president,
so, yeah.
you know, expressed commitment to, you know, to allow more investors, to encourage investors to come into the country, and also to promote industrialization in this country. But because industries use heavy machinery, and if we do not have the energy capacity,
Then
what we need when it
can't
comes to industrialization
Sure.
would not be realized.
Sure.
And, you know, our economy largely depends on electricity.
Yeah, cool.
You know, complete power outage in this country can cost us millions, if not billions, of dollars.
Sure.
So addressing this problem will go a long way towards also enhancing economic growth for the country, and also improving the lives and livelihoods of people in the Gambia. The government has a target by 2025.
That's right.
The National Development
We're
Plan
keeping
says,
an eye on it. Yes.
you know, by 2027, but we've also had the
From
president
Princess,
drawing it
bring
back
it
to
closer
20.
to-
Yes, bringing it
yes.
closer to 2025, and he's saying even if you are in a hole, light will find you there.
Quite. So yeah, and I think that's a brilliant thing and something to look forward to. So yes.
Of course, I asked one of my cousins, you know, I told him, this is what the president is saying.
Sure.
Of course, you know, he works at NAWIC
Right.
under the World Bank, and he told me, well, you know, he has every reason to believe that it is
It will
achievable
happen.
given the projects that we are implementing.
There you go. I couldn't be said better than that. And we'll be interviewing your cousin on QTV. So thank you for that, Mr. Choi. And on to our story number 4. Completely different one now. But again, you know, we talk about some of the challenges we have here. And some of the challenges we have relate to health, provision of health care. Some people are not just sitting by. They're trying to do something about it. What are they trying to do? Have a look.
Gambia Health have been established to combat or reduce the risk of non-communicable disease, because we know that non-communicable diseases are on the rise in the Gambia. It has accounted for 34% of all deaths. So that's why we established this foundation, so that we can join hands together and do a primary prevention, because we don't want to overburden our hospitals. We are health workers. We don't want to overburden the hospital with sick people. This is why we want to go and meet them in their communities while they are healthy, so that this way they will know what to avoid and they will take ownership of their own health and care for their own health. That way we will reduce the burden on the hospital, and we will also reduce the burden on the country. So this is a voluntary work. We are not being paid. But then we need support because the materials are quite expensive. Especially for this event, we had to go through a lot of things to get the materials we need. But we need more materials like the BP machine, the blood sugar machine, the hemoglobin machine, the strips. We need all these things. So when we have these things, we will do more work. And our aim is not only to stop at the urban areas. We want to go to the rural areas because we believe those people have less access to quality health service. And we are doing this for free, so we should give them their due.
We should give them their due. It is often said that people who go into the medical profession as nurses or doctors go as a vocation. And so what we have here, Mr. Choi, these are Gambians, some of them just starting on their journey as nurses and doctors, and yet they're volunteering for this fantastic initiative, testing people for free in their communities, not telling them come to us, they're going to meet them.
No, it is good, and it's a promising future for this country, a promising future for them in their profession. Seeing them doing such voluntary humanitarian service for the country. For me, what is quite shocking in the statistics that she has highlighted, which I also saw from the WHO website, non-communicable disease account for 34% of annual death in the country here.
Sure.
This is quite shocking, and preventive health is the best public health strategy that must be implemented in this country.
Absolutely.
And I am happy to see this organization also taking part towards that direction.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why we wanted to feature them is that kind of selfish reasons. A, there's a Gambian initiative. It's not some international NGO that's come and told them to do this. But also, if people see it, they might give them the funds to make them grow so that this can be a nationwide thing. The one we saw there happened at Pirikama, and lots and lots of people, hundreds actually, turned out to get kind of free health care checks of all sorts. You saw them were using the strips and all sorts of things, and really that's why we wanted to highlight it, that look, Gambians are doing this, and they're giving back something to the country that gave them the education and so on. Yeah.
So this is what government must promote through the Ministry of Health, and also development partners, because the ministry alone cannot do it.
Sure.
Our health sector is heavily burdened. Just this morning I saw some surgeons traveling to rural parts of the country and also offering some some surgery services to those health centers across the country, in order to reduce the burden. Because people living in the rural area, part of the problems that they've highlighted, some of these health facilities don't have doctors. Some of those doctors are just general, doctors.
They're not specialists.
Yes. They're not specialists. So they lack specialist doctors. So it is important to have initiatives like this, especially on preventive health. By raising awareness. For me, the best public health strategy is, ensuring that preventive health is promoted.
Because
in this country.
you're right. Because if they catch something that you have and they catch it early, they can treat it. But if you let it go too late because you didn't go and get checked and so on, then it gets to a stage where they might have to operate on you, when before they probably didn't have to operate on you because they were able to manage it based on the fact that it was caught early. But people seem scared, reluctant, whatever, to go and get tested for all sorts of things.
And the communication is not really, is from the Ministry of Health. Of course, they're implementing a lot of projects.
Sure.
But the risk communication really hasn't
But
been
is it?
that strong.
I've always wondered whether it's they deliberately don't communicate because they don't want to be overwhelmed by people saying yes, I'll come and get tested because you. And so the initiatives like this, they help out the Ministry of Health because if, as you said, it's overburdened, then if everybody decides, okay, I'm going to go and get tested for diabetes, for high blood pressure and so on, there'll be queues around all the hospitals and medical centers, and perhaps that might be one reason why they don't do that.
Not only that, but for those who who nothing is wrong with them, who are healthy, or those who have every reason to believe that they're not suffering from these NCDs,
Mm-mm.
they can also learn from, you know, from the risk communication measures coming from the Ministry of Health and other, you know, institutions in order to help themselves to know how to avoid, you know,
Yes.
these illnesses.
Yes. Right.
Of course, the more people become aware, the more people also visit the hospital.
Sure.
But that is what the Ministry of Health wants to promote,
Of course.
despite,
Yes.
you know, the status of our health sector.
Yes. Challenges. Yeah.
Hopefully, that will also inspire government to invest more in the health sector for the overall well-being
Sure.
of the population of this country.
Thank you for that, and very well said. And takes us up to story number 5, which will also take us to the halfway point. And for the first time, there was a first ever all-male conference organized by Men for Equality. What's it all about? Have a look, have a listen.
Mudlamin Davis, the national coordinator of Men for Equality, emphasizes the need to involve men in the fight against SGBV and how they can contribute to ending all forms of abuse against women and girls in the Gambia. Bakari Baji, the Minister for Youth and Sports, and Dairo Sar, the UNFPA country representative, also spoke of the importance of the event and highlighted the detrimental effects of SGBV on society. And they called upon men to be defenders by challenging all harmful stereotypes, adding that government and the UNFPA will continue to support all national endeavors against SGBV.
And Mr. Choi, this could not have come, as they say, at a better time. It came when they were still commemorating the 16 days of activism, which of course, as we know, is an annual campaign against sexual and gender-based violence, something which is really quite prevalent here in the Gambia.
Quite prevalent, of course, in the country. You know, the statistics are there. I think we've been reporting on the statistics,
Sure.
you know, quite high and usually also on the increase. But, you know, I never saw something like this initiative, you know, before. When I saw it online, you know, I had to, you know, it caught my attention.
You know,
I had
Men
to
for
look at it
Equality,
again.
etc.,
You know,
etc.
all
Yes.
men conference. I said, let me check whether this is not, you know, those, you know, drama, you know, you see online.
And also, I think it's good that you delved deeply, because people thought that this was a kind of counter to sort of the ones who were pushing female empowerment.
Yes.
And they thought it was a rebuttal.
That's
to
what
that.
I thought.
Many
That's
people,
what I
and I
thought.
think that's
All
what
men
made it
conference.
eye-catching.
I was like,
yeah.
it's a good idea. We the men also have rights. But when I look at it, I saw it as something that is a very good initiative,
Sure.
because you know, given the fact that Gambia, you know, we live in a patriarchal society.
It's unavoidable.
You know,
True.
and also men are dominating, you know, in almost every sector in this country.
Sure.
You know, they are, you know, dominate, you know, in the corridors of power.
Sure.
Also, you know, in so many sectors.
Yeah.
And with that level of influence, sometimes, you know, we tend to abuse, you know, our powers, abuse our, you know, our influence against women. But this initiative is a very good approach towards leveraging the influence that we have in order to promote gender equality in this country, in order to fight against or campaign against, you know, gender-based violence in the country. But of course, gender-based violence is not only women who also suffer from it, but also some men do.
Sure.
So it should be, you know, a collaborative effort between both sexes to make sure that at least it is addressed.
Well, this is it, and the kind of underlying theme was positive masculinity, and they were saying essentially, you know, beating up a woman doesn't make you a man, doesn't prove anything about you other than possibly that you're weak. And so they were saying that men have a role to play, and it reminded me of a project that was run in the UK to do with FGM, which was called I Am My Sister's Keeper, and it targeted men. Because having grown up in Sierra Leone, there are certain tribes and certain classmates of mine, some of them who are watching, would say, I would not marry a woman unless she has been cut. And so they were saying to men, you know, if you have that attitude, you're subscribing to quite a harmful practice that is really not good for women. It might be cultural, but that doesn't make it good. So in a similar vein, things like FGM got mentioned and the role men should play. And also, as you said, yes, some men are victims, but the majority are perpetrators. Let's be honest.
Of course.
Overwhelmingly.
That was what I wanted to say. The majority of cases of gender-based violence,
yes,
are perpetrated
the stats
by
are
men.
there. Yeah, sure.
Okay, the stats are there, and everyone can go and check. So women are highly vulnerable. Okay, so when we change the mindset of men, given the fact that majority of gender-based violence cases are perpetrated by them, so by changing their mindset, by working on getting them on board, in this campaign against GBV, will go a long way towards addressing the problem.
Sure.
Because women meeting alone and campaigning against it.
Well, this
is what they've been doing. These are the statistics.
You need to
and all
engage
of
the
that.
perpetrators and the
Engage
future
the perpetrators.
potential perpetrators. You're absolutely right. Yes.
This is the comprehensive,
Sure.
the most comprehensive approach, the best approach towards addressing it, because we coexist.
Sure.
But at the level of at the domestic level, at office level, you've seen that men tend to be at the level of the highest level of decision making. So by addressing this problem, one of it is also to promote gender equality.
Sure.
At workplaces, to ensure that at least the gender equality gap is also bridged.
Sure.
But also working on the mindset of men,
Sure.
getting them on board is a very innovative and sustainable way of getting the desired results that we look out for. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Choi. And that takes us to a break. And after the break, we will have 5 more stories. So join us after this commercial break. Don't go away.
The art of juggling is a true spectacle of agility, coordination, and speed. A symbol of progression, precision, and mastery. "5G speed is like having the juggler in your pocket.
Amazing.
With lightning-fast download and upload speeds, you'll easily be able to juggle even the busiest workdays. Whether you're a busy entrepreneur, a creative, or just someone who wants to stay connected. Juggle your tasks with ease with QCell 5G speed. The future is here. It's fast, reliable, and efficient. First brought to you by QCell. We innovate, others follow.
The future is now. With QCell's 5G network, experience speeds like never before with our new 5G Rocket Fixed Internet plan. Get speeds from 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps. Your 5G-enabled devices. Walk into QCell headquarters to get one of our 5G routers and experience the true feeling of 5G. Only with QCell. QCell brings you the future, tech, innovation, incredible speed. The future is now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyapus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello and welcome back. You are watching QTV and you are watching the Week in Review. I'm still Adi Darami and my guest is still Mohamed Lamin Choi. So Choi, thank you for your interjection so far.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. And in case you've just joined for whatever reason, I don't know, you might have been watching football or something, you've missed 5 really good stories, but there are 5 cracking ones still to go. And so story number 6, we're on. I sometimes smile, maybe you do as well, when you go to a conference and you hear them talking about children's rights and you look around and there aren't any children. Well, recently, somebody tried to change that. There was a conference here in the Gambia and we heard young people giving brilliant voice to their aspirations. Have a look, have a listen.
If there's a word that could describe how more than innocent we are, then we will have said it a million times. In the corridors of our vandalized schools, dangerous streets, and within the confines of refugee camps, believe me, our dreams persist. Our longing for education, safety, and the chance to flourish knows no boundaries, transcending the barriers imposed by conflict and war.
Honorable Sunoma says throughout the numerous conferences and discussions, their voices have echoed, commitments have been made and promises reiterated. But the Borno State Children's Parliamentarian says speeches alone cannot heal the wounds of conflicts that ravage childhoods.
Speeches alone cannot heal the wounds, Mr. Choi. I was making the joke there before of these older people, some of whom have forgotten what it was like to be a child or a youth, making decisions. But for once we heard the voice of the young, giving voice to actually their anxieties, and that the fact something must be done about it.
Yes, it is important that they are given such a platform. It's an international platform, and for them to raise their voices on such concerns, it's quite timely, given what we are facing across the world, in Africa, in the Middle East, and different parts of the world, in Ukraine. So children are usually victims of war, victims of subjugation, victims of oppression, and it cuts across every parts of the world. And just in Sudan, we've seen the statistics.
Sure.
So these are innocent lives, some of them newborn babies, some of them in their very tender age.
Yes.
And when conflict happens, it deprives them of their fundamental human rights.
Sure, sure.
Their fundamental human right to liberty, their fundamental human right to education,
Sure.
their fundamental human right to freedom, peace. All these things are deprived from them.
And also, for me, the thing that is, it deprives them of something that you and I enjoyed, although the childhood. It deprives them,
yes.
for example, ones who get conscripted as child soldiers, you're acting like an adult before you've even had a chance to be a child, So now we have this, the African Union, Peace and Security. It was their idea to convene this, and you had representatives from everywhere come, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. But as they said, we need to go beyond words. We need action that people mean what they say about. So countries can pass legislation and say, more children selling on the streets, but you go to those same countries, hundreds, thousands of children selling on the streets, including here in the Gambia, let's be honest.
We have international instruments that protect the right of children, especially during conflicts.
Sure.
What are the accountability mechanisms we also have at that international level to enforce those laws?
This is it.
So we must go beyond speeches, we must go beyond words, but strengthening accountability against perpetrators of what children face during conflicts is the most sustainable way of addressing the problems.
Sure.
Children are killed, children are displaced, children are deprived of their fundamental human rights. Nothing is happening to the perpetrators. This promotes impunity.
Sure.
This also deepens the crisis, the tension children face across the world during wars. So the best way of addressing this is to strengthen international accountability mechanism to ensuring that those who perpetrate those crimes are brought to book.
Sure. Thank you for that. Very, very well said there. And that takes us on to story number 7. Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, in partnership with International Development Research Center, held a very interesting inter-school drama competition. But it wasn't just any drama competition. It had a particular theme to it. What was the theme? I won't spoil it for you. Have a look.
According to the research findings, despite numerous efforts and policy frameworks to improve sexual and reproductive health in the Gambia, young people, essentially adolescents aged 15 to 34, who constitute 32% of the population, still lack access to quality comprehensive health education on protecting and preventing themselves against sexual and reproductive health problems.
Mr. Choi, our colleague Loli M. Kamara there, and what I liked about this program talked about, protecting children, but they used it in the form of a competition where it was drama competition, and the place was packed. And I've always subscribed to this catch them young theory, that if you want to inculcate good manners and good habits in people, catch them young and teach them young. Well, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a good initiative, and the drama couldn't have been, a better strategy implemented.
Sure.
Because through the drama, children's attention, you're able to capture their attention.
Sure.
You're able to send out the message rather than coming to the classroom or rather than, giving speeches, because they are children and, their interests really...
Sometimes short attention span, let's be honest, is there. But when you dramatize something, somebody's more likely to remember it. It's like if you dramatize it or you put it in a song, people tend to remember that sort of thing. Yeah.
People tend to remember, and also people, have more interest to sit and watch, rather than hearing the speeches.
Yeah,
so it's, it's a good strategy, at the level of the schools. I expect in our curriculum to have, such teaching methodology.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rather than, being in the classroom.
Just
and,
the kind of the usual. Yeah.
Yes, the conventional way of teaching children.
Sure.
About certain things. So it is good. Reproductive health, is important for children to learn at an early age, because at that age they are very vulnerable.
Sure.
Without knowledge of reproductive health measures for them to, or guides for them to, take into consideration.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it makes them more vulnerable to to health issues, to sexual, violence and all of that.
Of course. Yeah.
So qualitative, the qualitative approach that, the Ministry of Basic Education is taking when it comes to comprehensive health education, I think will really help in a long way.
Yeah, sure. And like I said, I'm a big fan of this type of teaching, and I wish they could do it with maths when I was at school. I would have paid more attention.
Yeah,
well, thank you, Mr.
sure.
Choi. Thank you. And now on to football, completely different subject. Gambia qualified for the second time in succession to the Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON as we all call it. And they decided to not be caught short again should the team progress. So what have they done? Well, let them tell you.
So here today, this is what's on the table. The Ministry, the Finance, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Youth and Sports, the Gambia Football Federation sat together to work out this budget, and it is acceptable. What happened last time in Cameroon was that it's unfortunate. The preparation that was made and the budget presented was just to see us through to the first round. So which was sad, because we almost prescribe ourselves to fail. So we surprised all of us, we surprised ourselves, we surprised the country. Hence the reason why the finance ministry had to run back and forth, trying to get money, because it was never budgeted for.
Surprised all of us, they surprised the whole of Africa, Mr. Choi, but could anyone blame them the last time that, okay, we've qualified for the first time ever, we didn't know what to bring, and we were also the lowest ranked team in our group, so maybe they were right not to plan to go beyond the group stage, but this time they're not making that mistake. They're planning as if they're going to go all the way to the final.
Yes.
Much wiser, surely.
We were not prepared for the level we reached
Let's be honest,
in that competition.
We really were not.
Very few Gambians believed that we could reach that far. Not only Gambians, but the entire continent.
The continent.
Everybody was shocked.
Sure. Beating all these bigger teams, much higher ranked teams. Yeah.
But our team really is quite good now. We have professional players there playing in big
the top
leagues. Yes, top leagues. across the world. I was telling you the other time that I have so much interest following, their development.
That's right.
Because my number one team, the only team that I can sit down and watch play, is the Scorpions.
Yeah, right.
I'm not an ardent follower.
You're not a Man United fan, even though I'm trying to make you one. But anyway, I'll keep trying. but please carry on.
So it's good. And this budget, of course, people will be shocked.
Sure.
At the
size
figures.
of it. Yeah. Sure.
But it was not the GFF which sat down and decided on this.
They didn't just pluck
these
a
numbers.
figure out of the air. Sure.
Stakeholders came together, brought their heads together, discussed, assessed, and came at a conclusion on the amount of money that we need.
If I can help those who will be thinking, oh, that's a lot of money, $388 million is. It's a lot of money, but if you are serious about planning well, so that if you progress and you progress and you progress, you're not caught short, as well as the team, you have the coaches, the technical staff, you have your nutritionists, you have your medical staff. These are all part of the group that you have to take if you are serious. If you go there and you're having problems, you can't go and say, oh, Cameroon, can you lend us your doctor? Can you lend us your physiotherapist? You have to have your own. And so, really, this is all part of it. And I think this is what, maybe they need to keep communicating with people to get people to understand that, we're planning in a very professional way so that we go there. We are as well equipped in terms of planning as Nigeria or Ghana or any of the big boys.
Yes, of course. We must not plan for the short target.
Quite.
We plan for the long target, and the long target is to reach, quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals.
Yeah.
This is just an estimate of the amount of money that we will need to take part, in this competition from the first stage to the last stage.
Sure.
You understand? So, what? For the dignity of our players, for the dignity and the integrity of our players, we must invest.
Sure.
Because without investing, the required amount of money for them to do it, of course, it will be very difficult for them to achieve what they want. So, these are just estimates. Hopefully, all of us, will support them towards.
Well, this is it, and they're reaching out to the public. They're reaching out to the private sector, business, and say, look, we all benefit.
Maybe
there's a feel-good factor.
Maybe all of it, wouldn't come from government budget.
No, not at all. Not at all from government budget. In fact, that was the reason
private
for
sector, should come out and sponsor.
That's kind of part of
businesses,
the appeal.
In the country that can come, come out and invest millions.
Yes. Can you imagine if every Gambian gave $5, for example? Hey,
that would be a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. So let's all kind of collaborate and make it happen and make sure, because amongst other things, for example, they want to be able to charter a plane that will fly them. They're going to go to Saudi Arabia for training ahead of the competition. All of that has to be funded. Nobody's just going to give it to them. And so when people are saying, "Oh, it's a lot of money," they need to think about what it's for and okay, let's scrutinize it. And say we want you to account for every penny. If I give you my $5, I want you to justify to me how it was spent. You're not taking your friends, wives, girlfriends, and so on. You're taking only the people who need to be there.
Yeah. For public trust.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sure. When they come back. When they come back,
sure.
At the end of the year, Gambians, now we have this access to information law. There must be proactive disclosure.
Well, this is it.
Come out and report back to the public.
Yeah.
This is where we spend the money.
Sure, and this is how we spent it. Yeah,
yes, and this is how we spent it. And it is going to, develop or, inspire more public trust.
Of course.
So that next time, when things like this
took the words right out of your mouth. I was going to say, so the next time you come, we'll say, okay, the last time.
People will want to give out their money.
That is it.
But if they don't know how you spend it, where you spent it, people wouldn't be encouraged to, to support you. So you want us to support you.
Sure.
Come out, offer yourselves to the public for accountability.
Yeah, be proactive, Sure. Yeah. Thank you for that. And of course, we wish the Scorpions every luck, not just in AFCON itself, but in raising the appropriate amount of funds. But thank you for that, Mr. Choi. And on to story number 9, our penultimate story. if we want to, we're talking about, we need to get, better infrastructure, electricity and so on, if we want to attract investors. Well, somebody is actually trying and thinking about getting investors to come to the Gambia. Who is that person? Have a look.
When I came, the office was, the standard was not very good. So with the help of our foreign ministry, we've been able to change a lot of stuff here, because this is the first point of call when investors come. And we've, alhamdulillah, been able to transform it, and we're happy that it's up of good standards. And within these 2 years also, we've been able to almost finalize the procurement process to build our new chancery and ambassador's residence. Those two properties have been lying for the last 15 to 20 years, and we've not been able to get to where we are now. But alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, we've actually, a couple of days ago, we completed the procurement process for it to be built, and now our recommendation will be sent to Banjul. That's an achievement.
There we heard our High Commissioner to Nigeria, Troy. Several things there. There are 100 things that one could do. We could look at the fact that with all our long-term relationship with Nigeria, we're only now talking about building ambassador's residence and a chancery. But one of the things I wanted to concentrate on is that people wonder, what does a High Commissioner do? But there he was, he's talking about trying to bring investors from Nigeria to the Gambia and make Gambia a good investment destination.
Yes, that is the role of of ambassadors. And when I heard him, it also reminds me, of the potential opportunities we also have across the world. I was in China. I saw a lot of opportunities. A lot of opportunities.
Quite.
They've just announced 98% duty-free for imported goods from the Gambia.
Yeah.
You understand?
Sure.
There are diplomats, Gambian diplomats in China and different parts of the world. What they must be doing is to, be very proactive, come out, organize bilateral meetings, visit organizations, visit businesses, and sell your country. Sell your country.
That's your role. Yeah.
There must be strategies towards that at the embassies.
Sure.
Rather than sitting down and be just dealing, be dealing with government. Public diplomacy works a lot.
Sure.
Don't sit down and wait for the for the Minister of Nigeria, the president, attending bilateral meetings and all of that. Take some steps and visit businesses.
Be proactive.
Be proactive.
Sure.
Visit businesses.
Sure.
Organize meetings, invite businessmen, and then sit down with them. Do a presentation about the Gambia and the potential opportunities.
Because when I thought about it, I thought about agricultural processing, for example. I mean, you go to Nigeria, a lot of agriculture is processed in Nigeria. A lot of the people who own those companies that process, they're millionaires and billionaires. If you were to say to them, hey, there's an opportunity for you in Gambia to go and open a factory where, just make money, you'll employ people who, because they're earning a living, they're paying taxes, and that's contributing to the country's economy, why don't you come and see? Well, we need that, and this is what our High Commissioner appears to be doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is high competition. There is high competition among countries to win investors.
Indeed.
High competition. So, if we are inactive, if we sit down, fold our hands, have our fingers crossed, waiting for investors to come, it wouldn't happen.
It's never going to happen.
The reason why we have embassies is for our national interest to be represented in a foreign country.
Of course. Sure.
And investment, foreign direct investment in our country really is hugely significant towards addressing the employment challenges, unemployment challenges the country is facing, without which the government cannot provide jobs for everyone. It doesn't have the capacity. So with foreign direct investment into our economy, it will go a long way towards, enhancing our infrastructure development, enhancing the lives and livelihoods of the country in so many sectors.
Sure.
But should we sit down and wait for them to come? No. Embassies must be, representatives of our national interest in those foreign countries for the greater good of our country and our people.
Thank you for that. And so we hope all our high commissioners and ambassadors are watching, and we'll be going to all of you and asking you the simple question: what are you doing to attract investment into the Gambia? Thank you for that, Mr. Choi. And that takes us on to, well, indeed, and that takes us on to our final story number 10, and we go not far, just around the corner, to Guinea-Bissau, the latest country where there's allegedly been a coup attempt in West Africa. When's it going to end? Anyway, have a look.
Expressing resolve, President Embalo promised severe consequences for those behind the second failed coup in less than 2 years. The unrest unfolding from late Thursday into Friday mid-morning saw the capture of Colonel Victor Chongo, the alleged leader behind who, it is alleged, was attempting to free detained officials, triggering a tense standoff as National Guard members sought refuge in city barracks. Intervention by special forces following failed negotiations led to an exchange of gunfire before calm was restored. The detained officials, Finance Minister Suleiman Seidi and Secretary of State for the Treasury Antonio Montero, faced scrutiny over an alleged $10 million state fund withdrawal. An anti-corruption inquiry on Thursday investigated payments to 11 companies, sparking opposition claims of close ties between the companies and the governing coalition. In a daring nighttime operation, National Guard soldiers armed with AK-47s and bazookas invaded police cells, liberating the officials, taking them to an undisclosed location.
We don't have much time on this, couple of minutes, maybe 3 minutes, but nonetheless, yet another country in West Africa. And in case anybody is not aware, those two ministers were alleged to have withdrawn that sum of money, $10 million, from national coffers. They were being questioned, and some members of the Guard, National Armed Guard, decided to go and release them. And threatened the police to hand them over, and the police did. Mr. Choi, when I was at the Cabinet Office 25, 30 years ago, they used to talk about Guinea-Bissau as a failed state. It's still fighting that reputation in spite of what President Embalo Sissoho has tried to do.
For sure, and for some other countries also on the continent facing, a similar economic challenge. Corruption, mismanagement of funds and resources, and all of that, conflicts really affecting different parts of Africa, and also the military trying to take advantage of it, and they've been doing it with impunity. Nothing is happening to them.
In so many countries,
in so many countries, looking at
Niger, Mali,
Niger, ECOWAS, the tension, ECOWAS, we're going to intervene, we're going to do this. It's like there is no holistic or strategic approach, at the regional level to address this problem. Instead, we're seeing more of it. There is the indication of the situation going out of hands, given the trend, the increasing trend of coup attempts.
Because as well as the successful 4, we've also had alleged coup attempts in Guinea-Bissau and in Sierra Leone. So and this is there are only 15 countries, whatever, in ECOWAS. So
within a very short period of time, and every country in the sub-region must feel threatened by this new trend.
And this is not us being melodramatic, it's just the facts are there for everybody to see.
Every country must be very serious enough and feel threatened and treated as a national emergency to address the problem, because we are all vulnerable given what we are saying.
Nice point to end it on, and a nice and downbeat point, but one that should give us some food for thought. Mr. Choi, thank you for your interjections and interventions throughout the program. And to our viewers as ever, thank you for watching. Until the next time, goodbye.